This is a Porsche 911 Turbo from the 991.1 generation, and it's not an ordinary Porsche. It's had the Stage 2 Royal treatment done to it. And what that means exactly and what this car has been like to own and drive around Dubai for the past 3 years, we're going to get into in this video, so stick around. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. First of all, I want to clarify what the Stage 2 Royal treatment means. And pretty much this car has an ECU remap, which is a tune that allows the engine to produce more power, and it has an upgraded exhaust system. I'm talking like the full works, IPE F1 titanium, with the headers, and that's a Valvetronic system, so I can kind of get this thing to be quiet when I need it to, and when I need some extra grunt and I'm feeling like a bit of a hooligan, I can just hit a button on the remote control, the valves open, and the car gets pretty loud. And when you combine those two elements together, so between the tune and the exhaust, the car is now putting out 620 horsepower. That's 100 horsepower over stock, which is quite an impressive gain considering it's just a tune and some bolt-ons. There's a common debate if the 911 Turbo qualifies as a supercar. Let's see. I mean, it's a 3.8 liter twin turbocharged 6-cylinder. That's a flat 6. That puts out stock 520 horsepower, which we just covered. And it's got its all-wheel drive, all-wheel steering, 7-speed PDK. It weighs 1,600 kilograms, which it's no lightweight, but it's not a slouch either. It's proportional to what kind of car this is. It achieves a quarter-mile time of 10.42 seconds. That's a second slower than a Bugatti Chiron takes on the quarter mile. That car has 1,500 horsepower, 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, and costs 22 million dirhams. Which makes this a bit of a bargain if you think about it, considering it's just a second slower. Acceleration time from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, wait for it, is 2.6 seconds. Do you know what 2.6 seconds feels like? I'm going to show you. That's how long it takes to 100 kilometers an hour. In comparison, a Formula 1 car takes the exact same amount of time to 100 kilometers an hour. Formula 1. This thing's as fast as a Formula 1 car. I'm so proud of it. So if that isn't supercar territory, I don't know what is. If you haven't been following my Instagram or previous videos where I've mentioned this, is that we're kind of in a celebrity right now. This little show pony made its way to Netflix, actually. It starred on a Netflix show involving drag racers from around the Middle East coming together and battling it out. And the thing is, those cars were tuned to well over 1,000 horsepower, some of them. And it's quite impressive just to see how this car did against cars that are pulling those kinds of numbers. So I'm not gonna say more. If you want to check it out, go to Netflix. It's called The Fastest. Season 1 is out now, so by all means check it out. So we've covered that the car performs well. We get it. It's fast. Can we move on? Absolutely. What's it like to own and drive? I mean, from a driver's experience point of view, And I don't know how to sum this up better than it just makes you smile all the time. When you're driving it and after you've parked it and you look back at it, you realize you're driving a masterpiece. It really is. This is some of Porsche's finest work from back in 2014, and it's still very relevant in 2022 today. And I understand why this car has earned the title as the Everyday Supercar. So we've touched on every aspect that makes this car a supercar, but what about the everyday parts of an everyday supercar? And that comes down to practicality. Is this car practical? And in one word, yeah, it really is. I've got room in the front, which is the front trunk. So I've got room in the front for 2 carry-ons. And I've got room right behind me for another 2 carry-ons, be it on the seats or the seats that fold down and you end up getting this nice bench. You also have a little ledge right under the glass. I don't recommend it, but it can be done. So you've got a lot of storage space there, and at the same time, you can fit more than 2 adults in here. I've fit my nephews in the back on several occasions, and I'm not proud of this, but I have fit my mother at the back as well. If you're watching, I'm sorry, Mom, but it can be done. So I want to get into a few things that I like, things I didn't like, and some neutrals, just stuff that I thought you should know if you're looking to get a 911 turbo and maybe modify it a bit. So let's get into it. First of all, is this electric steering? It's too light. I'm not a fan of it. I think around town it drives beautifully, but for my preference, I like a bit of weight on a steering wheel compared to my last car, which was a BMW M5 from the F10 generation. That car was able to be set up so you had your suspension, you had your sports programs, you had your gearbox velocity, and you also had a control for the steering. So if you're driving around the track and you want a bit more weight on corners, you had that flexibility, which I loved. This car has the dampening control. It has the sports programs that allow you to get better throttle mapping or even sportier gear changes. So they have added some elements of customization, but sadly nothing for the steering wheel, and I really wish they had that. I want to touch on the PCM, which is the Porsche Communication Management, which is the center screen in the middle. Yes, it's touchscreen, so it does help with the whole navigation and just getting around, but it's very dated. It feels old. It is old. That's why in the 991.2 generation from 2016 and above, they completely redesigned it. It has a higher resolution screen, Apple CarPlay, and I'm glad they did something about that. But in the 991.1 generation, it just does feel a bit dated. Let's get into the PDK. The PDK, which is this, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Sounds like doppelganger. I can't say it. The PDK, which is the dual clutch transmission of Porsche, has been praised by many as being the quintessential transmission that absolutely everyone adores. It's meant to be buttery smooth, snappy, reliable, all of that good stuff. For the most part, I'm going to agree, except in first gear. I think first gear engagements are very sluggish. There's a mechanical clunk that you feel noticeably when you're approaching a speed bump or you're in traffic or something like that. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. And that's the whole reason that I'm going to be picking on this transmission. From a dislike point of view, I am going to say something about the exhaust. If you do plan on upgrading your exhaust, expect some drone. Expect a lot of it. Driving long distances, it's just a constant hum, a deep bassy hum that is going to really annoy you for most of the drive. The negative stuff is done with. Let's talk about some good stuff, because that's what you're here for, I'm sure. First of all, I have to shed a light on how consistent the performances of this car. I'm not going to talk about the performance itself. We've already covered that. But the consistency of it. Like with other cars I've had, you generally feel the car's a bit more moody. Sometimes it feels like giving you the full power. Other times it feels like, you know what, I'm not in the mood. I'm not going to do it. So with this one, I got the same power every single time I drove it. Summer, winter, hot weather, cold weather, whatever it is, I always got the same power out of it. And I love that. It was very dependable. Also very dependable and reliable and consistent is the launch control. This is the one party piece of this car which can deliver time and time and time again in a row if needed, and just give you phenomenal launches from the ground up and never complain about it. And I love that about this car. Which brings me to the acceleration. And I think as great of a track car as this is and an everyday road car, the acceleration in a straight line is the one reason that is making it tough for me to let this car go. I love it. Low-end acceleration, again, 2.6 seconds to 100, and beyond that, it just keeps pulling. It pulls like a freight train, and this is why I think it's unbeatable in the supercar category, because by that time you've already taken off and everything else is trying to play catch up. Now let's talk about track a bit. How would I sum up this car on the track? I'm going to say it's surgical. I like that word, surgical. The precision of it is just phenomenal. Pick any racing line you want, it's going to follow it. Brake as late as you want, it's going to brake. Accelerate out of a corner with the all-wheel steering and the all-wheel drive. You get virtually zero slipping or sliding or tire squeal. This thing is like it was made for the track. So, and this is not even a GT3 or a GT3 RS, GT2 RS, those ones that are bred for the track, those are going to be phenomenal. But this thing really keeps its own, especially that you can get off the track and drive home in a civilized manner, and again, back to the point of being an everyday supercar. What really helps you enjoy the experience, whether it's the daily use or in spirited driving, are these seats. So I have the 18-way sport seats, which, to be fair, I've never really used the 18-way adjustables. I think it's a bit overkill. But either way, once you have the seats set up, the support that you get from it, both in terms of lateral support going around corners and keeping you in place, or just the everyday comforts, they really add to the experience. So I know I've spoken about the exhaust, the fact that it drones cruising around town, and that's a negative thing, no doubt. But the pros outweigh the cons tenfold. I mean, the orgasmic symphony you get out of this thing, the way it snaps, crackles, pops, spits flames, I swear it makes Rice Krispies green with envy, with all sorts of sounds that this thing makes when it's getting spanked around track. Love it. Let me sample it for you. going to get into a few more things which are neither positive nor negative, but you know, they're things that you should know, especially if you want to modify your Porsche 911 turbo or other. And I've got upgraded wheels on this car. So the stocks are 20-inch wheels. This has 21-inch by Boston, and they're specifically made for this car, which is really cool. So the 21-inch for day-to-day use, honestly, they're great. You don't feel that you've got wheels that are bigger than the car can handle. The ride isn't too harsh. But I do recommend, if you're going to track your car, keep your stock 20s around, because it's too harsh to put these on track. Also is the width of the car. So your standard maybe 4-door saloon, where the extremity of the car is where the doors are. Like if you look at the car, let's say top view down, as a driver, you generally assess the width of the car based on, you know, where the doors are, and that's how wide your car is if you want to slide into tight spaces. This car is not like that. This car has an ass on it that won't quit. So if you're going to squeeze through tight spaces, account for that extra girth, because the last thing you want is a scratch on that beautiful badonkadonk. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah. If you're the kind of person that cares about fuel economy, the car is averaging around, I'd say 11 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not too bad considering this car's got 620 horsepower and can do this. You get it. It doesn't get old. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Hopefully you've gotten some understanding of what it's like to drive a Porsche 911 Turbo, and from everyday points of view, if you want to take it to the track, if you want to modify it, things to look out for. And so hopefully it's been informative. I do want to thank you for watching as always, and until the next video, take care.